If you're hearing this, something in you already knows. You've felt the call, maybe for years, the sense that you carry something, a piece of a larger puzzle, encoded in you, waiting for the right moment to be activated. Well, that moment is now. The preparation phase is over. The inner work, the waiting, the wondering, if it was real, that season is complete. What's being called for now is something different. Connection, mobilization, the physical act of building together what we've all been dreaming of separately. Welcome to Being Luca. I'm Leila Nagizada, and this podcast is a clearing call, a signal sent out to find the specific humans who are meant to co-create this vision with me. Each conversation we have here is a piece of the blueprint, exploring one central question from every angle. How do we actually build heaven on earth? On the inside as a new way of being human, and on the outside as a living, breathing, physical reality. A blueprint for a more evolved way of living. This isn't just a podcast. It's a gathering point. If you feel it, you're home. Let's build. Welcome back to the Being Luca podcast. Today I'm joined by Bart Hoorweg, an engineer, ecosystem weaver, and strategist focused on the transition toward regenerative systems and the co-creation of a more connected, meaningful world. Bart's work bridges collaborative technology, regenerative economics, bioregional coordination, and community building, with a strong emphasis on aligning inner transformation with systemic change. Just the person after my own heart. Through initiatives like Gaianet, his involvement in village building projects in Portugal, including Neo's Life and Traditional Dream Factory, and his writing and conversations, he explores how people, projects, and resources can come into deeper coherence in service of a thriving future. In this conversation, we explore Bart's journey from robotics engineering into a deeper inquiry about consciousness, purpose, and what it means to create a world rooted in connection rather than separation. We talk about spiritual awakening, the shift from mind to heart, emotional embodiment, shadow work, regenerative communities, and what it might look like to build a society founded on what Bart calls planetary consciousness. What I appreciated most about this conversation is that while we touch on some very big ideas, we continually bring them back to something deeply human and practical. Our relationship with ourselves, each other, and the living earth. If you've ever found yourself asking questions like, what does a more coherent way of living actually look like? How do we bridge inner transformation with real world change? And how do we begin creating communities and systems that support human flourishing? Then I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. Please join me in welcoming Bart Hoorweg. All right. Hello, Bart. Thank you so much for making the time for us to connect. I'm very much looking forward to hearing more about your journey and what you're doing. I know you're supporting people that have big visions, but your own story is very interesting. So if you don't mind, we can just dive right in and get started with your origin story. I read a little bit about your past, and you were a robotics engineer, right? And on paper, it's like a dream career. You're doing what you love, right? And then somehow you felt like it was time for a change. And I imagine there was likely some kind of a spiritual awakening or something stirring in you that maybe pushed you in that direction. So yeah, if you don't mind sharing how you made that shift from, your career to now a very different line of work, and anything else you want to share. Yeah, we'll go with the flow here.
Yeah, well, first, thanks for having me here. It's always a joy to meet new people, and this is quite a dive into the unknown.
Yes.
I really like that. We've just been exchanging some messages on Substack, and yeah, it seemed we were part of the same circles, but we didn't know each other yet. So it's nice that we dive in straight away with this recorded conversation. Um, so yeah, it's already a little bit over 7 years now, I think, that I left my job in the robotics engineering world and felt like that was kind of the start of my journey of following my heart. So it also feels like I've completed this 7 year cycle and now it's like all the pieces have fallen into place. So it's an interesting moment to kind of reflect on that whole journey. And yeah, like I have always followed like the normal path, let's say, and the path that society had laid out for me, and studied mechanical engineering and then did a master's in mechatronics and robotics, so more towards high tech engineering, automation, and yeah, all the fancy stuff that technology is enabling for us, and now becoming more and more relevant in the age of AI and robotics and humanoids that enter our homes. And yeah, I've always been interested in how things work, and that led me on this path of engineering and figuring out how to design these machines. Um, but then, yeah, during my student time, I already started expanding my interest and became more interested in how does the world work, how does society work, the economy, how do we work? Yeah, both getting to understand psychology and personal development, and then in that process, yeah, also had a more spiritual journey, if you will, which was kind of guided by a search for truth about life and discovering who I am. And yeah, I was always interested in philosophy and kind of first explored Western philosophy, but then I kind of felt that was a bit limited. And then I discovered Eastern philosophy, which has a different approach. I think the Western philosophy is very much mind oriented, and Eastern philosophy rather puts consciousness as like the fundamental substance of reality. And from there, everything comes forth. And when I discovered that, I was like, oh, that makes so much more sense. Because I always wondered, like, okay, if we're in this reality, but what's our place in it? Like, what's our presence? How is that part of the equation? And I felt that was only limitedly answered by Western philosophy. And yeah, then finding Eastern philosophy that puts consciousness as central was for me an eye opener, and that helped me, I think, in my inquiry into this question of who am I, and what is this reality that we inhabit. Um, so yeah, I remember always that I was, I think, around 24 when I had maybe what you could call a spiritual awakening, or at least a gradual process in which it dawned on me that basically everything is one, all of life, all of existence, and we are an integral part of that. And yeah, that shift in consciousness that has clearly influenced my life and everything that followed. And I kind of, yeah, from that these first moments, I knew like, wow, I need to do something with this, because in our societies we have completely forgotten this notion. And if this is like the most fundamental truth, then we need to realign the way we live. And that's been, a long journey. And in the beginning, at least that part of the journey was quite lonely, because I didn't have other people around me with who I could share that experience. And it's
Mhm.
only been in the last maybe 5 years, especially since March 2020, that I co-founded Gaianet with a bunch of people. We can dive into that in a second. But that's when I started to meet, yeah, a lot of other people who are on a similar path and are kind of living life from a more integral and planetary consciousness, and yeah, working on creating the foundations for a way of living and eventually a planetary civilization that aligns with that
Mhm.
consciousness.
Yeah.
So, well, I still have skipped a whole part of the journey, but this kind of shows the full arc of where things started and what has influenced what I'm
Mhm.
doing now. So maybe I'll pause there for a second and see what this stirs in you and where you want to dive
Yeah.
deeper.
Thank you so much. No, it's an incredible journey. And I think there is so many people like yourself, right? Like that start very much with the cerebral and the academics and learning and the mind, right? And I think as a global, collective consciousness, there is a shift happening, right? From the mind, the head, and into the heart. And kind of what you're
Mm,
describing, that awakening where we start questioning, right? Of like, who am I? Why am I here? What is the point? How does all this work? And I'm one of those people as well that just always questioned all of that and also searched under every rock and almost had a similar experience to you in that understanding that consciousness is at the root and we are the expression of consciousness, right? And that again, not just a mental understanding or theoretical understanding of oneness, but a direct experience where it's like the veil lifts and you all of a sudden
mm,
have experience viscerally of like, it's all one. It's all just a reflection of me, right? Which is the me is the oneness, and then I'm just this one fractal of it. So, in your experience, if you don't mind, what has your personal experience been like? And also, I know that's the work you're doing is supporting people with that shift, right? From head, from mind, and more heart centered, embodied, like spirit breathing itself through this. We are still in form, right? We're having this experience of being distinct expressions of consciousness, right? So, what was your experience like personally with that embodiment process? Because for me, it's still a journey. Like, it's still a journey that making that shift from head into heart and like fully being embodying the soul that I know I am, right? While also integrating the shadow and the humanity and the personality and the identities. Like, that is where I find the juice and the richness of this journey lies, right? It's like, how do we integrate that? How do we actually make that connection or that shift through the connection with the truth, like the true essence of who we are, and how you support others as well? Because this is, I think, each of us through our own journey have a unique process through that. And then in the work that we do, it's like a little peace offering that we share with others, right? Because there's no one way. I think there's infinite ways. And in our own experience of how we navigate through that, then we're able to share almost like a map or a guide for others to maybe take a piece of it and then find their own way as well, right? But we all learn from each other's perspectives because that's also, I think, the purpose of consciousness dividing itself is to find all these infinite ways of finding our way home to the truth of who we are, right?
yeah. Yeah, well, it's nice to hear you speak, and um, don't know what to add there. I, well, it's what you're saying, it's like it's a lifelong journey, and if you take a zoomed out perspective, you could say that as humanity and as individuals in this lifetime, we are being given the opportunity to live through the remembrance of
Mhm.
unity.
Mhm.
And I think, I have no clue. Life is a mystery. I have no clue what comes after and what has come before. Um, at least to a large extent. But I think this is the cycle of life and the cosmos as well. It's like consciousness kind of forgetting so that it can remember again. And I've always really enjoyed the analogy that Alan Watts shared about this universe being a playground of God, where God plays hide and seek with himself or
Yeah.
itself, herself,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And so the whole point is to kind of, play that you're not God, play that you're this individual, and play that you're Layla and all the other people on the planet, and kind of hold up this act that we don't know that we're God, right? That everything is one and is the same consciousness. So um, yeah, there is a continuous kind of forgetting and remembering, I guess. And right now we're given this opportunity to remember this again, and as a collective to do it together, right? Because also God wants to be experience togetherness, what that means. And yeah, what's the point of being just one and bliss and everything perfect all the time? Like, yeah, you want to have all kinds of experiences.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, like yeah, maybe in the beginning there was a part of me that really wanted to help other people wake up. Right
Mhm.
now, I don't mind that much anymore. It's like, yeah, whatever, and
Yeah.
at the same time, I do enjoy spending time with people who are living from this expanded state of consciousness, because there is like a more effortless resonance, and in terms of work and purpose and calling, there is a natural alignment. And yeah, there seems to be also a bigger mission that people are part of changing life on the planet, and that is something that I think needs to happen if we want to survive as a species. So there is definitely, um, work to be done for us to yeah, change the way we live. And regardless of survival, I think there is so much more potential in us as humanity, and I am just deeply curious to see all of that come to life.
Mhm.
It's like I also see this planet and this universe as a playground. And yeah, the planet that we live on, it for me, it is already paradise, right? We are being given this paradise planet, and we can have so many incredible experiences here, and there is something sacred for me about that, and something that I cherish and want to take care of. And I do believe also the planet itself has a consciousness. And yeah, you could say that the planet itself is waking up from a slumber, from a sleep, and we are waking up with her. And we are, yeah, invited to be part of an evolutionary shift as a species. And I think it's super exciting. So yeah, that's what's driving me in this. And yeah, I think the whole point of life and creation is to follow our joy, and in this evolution also become children of the earth again.
Mhm. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. And I love there's so many threads that I can pull there from in terms of it being a game and a playground, right? And then the forgetting and the remembering. So, in terms of, again, practically speaking, what is your inner process like? Because, we all have our shadows, right? We all have the mind and our different patterns. So when you encounter or are confronted with your shadow, how do you, what has been maybe your journey of relating to yourself with more, with those, to those parts, with more compassion, right? Because I think the external, as we know, and the, the collective is just a mirror of the internal individually, right? So if we want to see truly a civilization or a society that is fully awakened, fully in, let's say, the 5D consciousness, right? The heaven on earth, unity, Christ consciousness. I think we all have probably our own interpretation of what that means or definitions. The way I feel it in my own system is I'll know that I've fully stabilized in the 5D or the unity consciousness when I will no longer experience internally any kind of like internal conflict or war, right? Because that's what we're seeing externally as a result of
Mm.
individuals that have not yet fully faced and integrated their shadows. And again, this is a lifelong journey and perhaps even many lifetime journey for the soul, right? So I'm always fascinated to hear that process that each individual soul that we are, how do you relate to your shadow in this process of the awakening and the remembering, right? Like, what is your process of confronting and then integrating those shadows? And of course, the relationships, you spoke a little bit about that. It's like we're not meant to just like sit in bliss, right? We are meant to use the relationships as mirrors that then kind of give us that feedback, like a instant feedback of like when something comes up in us, right? Some people call it triggers. I personally don't resonate with that word. It's more like an activation, some like somebody pressed on a wound within us, right? So what is your personal process to um, that you take yourself through in moments when there is an activation, when a shadow does kind of awaken or needs your attention? How do you create more compassion, more acceptance, more coherence in your own system? If you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, well, that's a good question. And um, I don't know if I have so much of a conscious process for this. I actually recently, it was last week that I asked someone, what actually is shadow work? I mean, I hear it all the time, but then I was like, I don't even know what it is. And then she explained something like, it's the part of yourself that you're not always conscious about, and that can come up through what you're describing, right? These triggers or these activations, and then it's an opportunity for us to discover these unconscious parts of ourselves. So I'm also starting to learn, more consciously of what are all these different things. Um, yeah, I definitely think I do a lot of this shadow work, but maybe also more intuitively and not so much of like, oh, now I'm gonna do shadow work.
Right.
But
Right. Well,
yeah,
yeah. So you intuitively follow like what feels probably in the moment, right? Within you, like, okay, I maybe need this or that in the moment.
yeah, in general, I would say that for me an important part is to, yeah, sit with the uncomfortable parts and deeply feel it
Mhm.
and be curious. Um, yeah, and oftentimes when something activates in us, and especially when it's more uncomfortable emotions like fear or anger, frustration, sadness, shame, we tend to move away from it, right? And that's actually, how it was 10 years ago. Uh, I didn't even know that I had the ability to feel, like it's something that I also discovered in my journey at some point through some kind of test. And well, it was a whole enlightening experience that at some point I realized that, oh, actually I'm a feeling person. And actually that's one of the core ways that I like to perceive reality, but I didn't know. So that became a whole journey for me to explore. feeling. And before that, when I was feeling something, I would go into the mind to
Mm.
analyze the feeling instead of being with the feeling. So for me, it has been a whole journey of learning to feel. And, women are naturally way better equipped with that ability, I think, at least. For men, that's less common. And for me, especially, that has been a journey. And I think, yeah, especially when doing this shadow work or exploring more challenging emotions and the unconscious parts of ourselves, I think the challenge is to really be with the feeling without going into story mode, because that's often what happens, right? There's a trigger and that activates the story, and that story starts playing, and that activates more emotions, and it's this whole cycle that gets activated. So um, yeah, I think the skill to develop there is to slow down enough that you can be with the raw feeling without the story connected with it.
Beautiful.
And in my experience, when you can really be with the feeling and feel, it slowly starts to unpack and can reveal a lot of information that is beyond stories and maybe even beyond words. Um, but it's information that has been, yeah, maybe stored there for you to process at the moment that you're able to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. You have the capacity, right? Otherwise it wouldn't be arising. Like I feel like
Mm-hmm.
whenever things come up, it's because on some level, at a soul level, maybe, right? You are ready to see that part of yourself, to be with it, to invite it, like you're saying, right? To just give yourself that container and the spaciousness as the awareness that we are to just hold that
Mm.
and let it process through you, which is beautiful, right? To think that there's this like intelligence almost that is orchestrating all that, right? Because everything is being orchestrated by this intelligence that we are a part of, but it's almost done on
Mm.
this like unconscious level, not subconscious, but like from the higher parts of us, right? Something is moving all these pieces in our lives at a precise like divine timing when the soul is ready to see something or integrate it or be with it. And what a beautiful journey it sounds like, right? Like to think how insane that in our society, right? It's like we are human beings and yet we have been conditioned out of that very natural way of just existing. Like we are meant to
Mm.
feeling beings, and
Exactly.
that is the insanity of our current civilization, right? It's like that is at the core, I think, the foundation of what's misaligned in our society is that we've forgotten that. It's like we've been
Mm.
conditioned from birth, most of us, to just be in the left brain, right? To think, not to
Mm.
feel, but to think. And I think that is the actual like root issue of what's quote unquote not wrong, but like off, misaligned in our society is that we've forgotten that it's
Mm.
the heart first. It's this,
Mm.
it's the soul, it's the feeling first. And then the mind is supposed to be the, like a servant to the soul, right? Or a
Mm.
tool that we use, right? We need the mind. It's a beautiful part of us, but it's so backwards, right? It's like we are conditioned to use the mind as our primary source of, processing the world. It's so topsy-turvy. Like it's just wild, right? So it's
It
beautiful
is.
you had that journey of like, oh wow, I can feel, and like it's like coming home to yourself, to your natural state of being. I think as kids we know that we are feeling beings. We cry when we something hurts, or we scream when we're upset, but then it gets conditioned out of us. It's just so wild to reflect on that, right?
Yeah. It is
And
quite crazy, to be
well,
honest.
you
Yeah.
know, with your specific story, right? With especially with like engineering and robotics, like you were, I don't know how many years of schooling, right? You were literally training yourself to like grow and expand that beautiful, powerful muscle, right? Of thinking,
Hmm.
realizing, and like I don't know engineering, but I imagine it's a lot of that.
It's very mental, yeah.
Very mental, but it's also incredibly beautiful, right? There's such intelligence there, but it's
Hmm.
because it was a little out of balance. Like imagine if you have that, which you already do, and then now you're developing this beautiful faculty of feeling and being, and then when both come into this, coherent, balanced state, like wow, how beautiful what you can create from that place, right? So just want to acknowledge you for that journey because it's really wonderful to for you to come into that embodied awareness, not just like, oh yeah, I have a heart, but like you actually feeling now. It's so beautiful. That's beautiful.
Mm.
Congratulations, because that's powerful. On an individual level to make that shift, it's really beautiful because it makes it possible, I think, for more people as we do our work. It like
Mm.
paves the way for others to be able to, find it a little easier, I think, too, within their own journey, right? Because it makes it more available in the quantum field for us to tap into those potentials when we anchor it into the earth in our bodies.
Yeah. Well, I hope so, and I think so.
Yeah.
I can only speak for myself, but for me, it has been a big liberation, to be honest, because I could really be stuck in the mind sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And for me to discover this world of feeling, it gave me a whole new dimension to experience life, and it has made life in a way more simple as well and more beautiful, and it has brought me so many different things. And I really hope that as humanity we can all make that journey to the hearts and also to our bodies. It doesn't end with the heart. It's like, just get out of this box and inhabit the whole being that we are. And I think our heart is like the center.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but also the connection with our body is, I think, important because everything that's happening currently on the planet is, I think, is due to a disconnection from our bodies and the larger body of the planet. If we were connected to our own body and our own being, we would feel this connection to the planet, and I think we would all naturally take care of it because everything is connected.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely, exactly. And that exactly what you're speaking to, that is what we're seeing in the collective is when we are disconnected from ourselves, from our bodies, from our soul, that's how you see so much violence and cruelty, right? Because you're literally disconnected. You can't feel it. You don't even know that it's a
Hmm.
part. And that's
Yeah.
what this shift, I think, is, transpiring
Yes.
right now collectively. It's like we're remembering that, wait a second, it's all one. So how can I like harm another part of myself? Like you wouldn't cut off your arm.
Exactly.
That doesn't make
Exactly.
sense. So how do you then harm the soil that then produces the food that feeds you? It's like we are nature, we are part of that ecosystem. And yeah, it's I think it's a beautiful segue, if you don't mind, to go into
Hmm.
more kind of global scale and what the work you're doing, right? So
Hmm.
we hear a lot in the space, right, of like the new earth, we are here to bring the new earth, that kind of terminology. So in your understanding, what is the new earth? How do you understand it? How do you live it? And exactly to the point of embodiment is like, how do you live the new earth individually? And then in terms of in the outer world, from all the work that you've done, I know you're very active with different communities, right? Like that are building the new earth in a way, in their own unique way, in their own unique expression. How do you see us as, humanity so far in small pockets maybe, but eventually as a global network, how do we actually build the new earth? What does that look like in terms of systems or practices, or like how do we live as a new awakened humanity from your perspective, right? Because I think it's there is no, again, there's no right or wrong way. We're all kind of figuring it out as we go. But yeah, this is kind of what my interest lies in. Is like, what is this new Earth paradigm? How do we live it? How do we embody it? And then how do we, from that place of embodiment, then build it together, right? Like gather and then build it together. So yeah.
Wow,
Big.
what a question. Big question. And well, my default state of mind to approach many questions in life is I have no fucking clue.
Right.
uh, and to be honest, I've always had a bit of a struggle with these words, New Earth, even
Hmm.
though they have also been guiding words for me, and I've noticed that many people that I meet that are using these words, they are speaking the same story
Hmm.
in different ways. So there is something to it. And I think what's most important is that we don't get lost in the words because these words are, in a way, just pointers.
Hmm.
And yeah, for me, the like if I would describe it, the essence is a planet and society that is founded in this planetary consciousness.
Hmm.
That for me is the essence of it, and then everything that comes forth, can be lots of different things.
Hmm.
Um, my personal vision for the world has always been to create a world in which everyone can do what they love,
Hmm.
to follow their passions, their calling, their inner drives and joy and excitement. And I believe if we can create the conditions for that to happen, a way more beautiful world than exists now would come to life. And like I said before, I'm just extremely curious to see that happen. Um, so that's maybe, at the heart of what's driving me in enabling in the world. And then, yeah, being part of what you could say the New Earth movement, or also the word regeneration is often used. So there's this regenerative movement, and then there's systems change and game B, and there's a lot of overlapping movements that I think are all working on the same bigger shift. Um, but yeah, what's important, I think, is this is reconnection with nature and ourselves,
Hmm.
and to create the systems, conditions, and spaces that can enable that. So this feeds into all sectors of society, from how we grow food to how we run our economy to how we coordinate, and how we build, and the infrastructure that we make. There's a lot. Um, I think that's affected by this, and yeah, over time we'll see what that translates into. And yeah, what I'm currently much drawn to is these physical places where people intend to create new ways of living. And I'm currently in one of those. This is Neo's Life. I know you've been here as well. Next week, I'll be going to Traditional Dream Factory, which is another regenerative village in Portugal. And yeah, what these places have in common is to, well, first of all, live with other people that share a similar kind of care for the planet, and desire to live in connection with nature and with other human beings, and find ways in which we can live harmoniously. And I think share so many more of our gifts. That is my experience. Actually, at least in with living in community, you discover there's so many more gifts that we have that we can share with other people. instead of what we do in a job or in this one specific box. Um, and yeah, the simplicity of having birds around here that you hear every day, and these sounds of nature, that is already something that does so much to the human body. Or the fact that you can see the night sky at night when you're gonna go out for a pee, or simply having people around you who care for you when you're having an injury or an emotional challenge, or working on your shadows, for example, and having people around with you who you can share life with. I think in that sense, it's not that new or revolutionary. It's actually very simple, and coming back to who we are, and how we've always been living as human beings, which is, in tribes and in community, and um, taking care of each other's needs. And yeah, there's so many needs that in our Western modern society are, I think, hard to fulfill. Um, I think mainly due to, many people living by themselves in an apartment, and there's isolation, and simply the need for touch, for example. That's one of the needs that's very important to me. When I live somewhere by myself, I really am deprived of that need. While when I'm in community, every day I give people a hug when I wake up and when I go to bed, and you can cuddle during the day, and there's so many ways to fulfill that need. And yeah, simply the presence of other people around, I think that's something that we've lost, and the sense of family, and um, yeah, also having a shared purpose, something that you work together towards. I think that's something that's important for people. And just like our needs can be fulfilled, the fact that we can help other people fulfill their needs, and it can be small things, right? Giving someone a massage, or holding space while they're having a cry, or that's something that's deeply meaningful as a human being. That's nourishing us as well when we give. And this whole idea of yeah, sharing our gifts, and what I said before, like there's so many gifts that we discover when we are in community, so many gifts that we can share, and that in itself is deeply nourishing. So yeah, it's a new way of living, but at the same time, it's not that new at all.
Yes.
I think it's, yeah, something that all of us would realize if we connect more deeply with our body, with our being. And yeah, I hope that this new way of living can become more accessible for more people. Because yeah, the more of these spaces we have, the easier it becomes for other people to step into it, to experience it, and be like, "Oh, hey, this is actually what I want." Because oftentimes people don't even know what they want until they see it and experience it. Yeah, well, I think I'll pause there for a second. I've been sharing a lot.
No, it's
Am I still on your question?
yes, yes, no, you are, because that is exactly in terms of practicality, like this is how we live the new earth, right? What you're describing is, again, we can use the word new, but it isn't new. This is how we actually
Hmm.
evolved. We evolved in tribes. We are, tribal animals. We are not meant to live in isolation. It's just we've lost our way. We've forgotten along the way. And I think
Hmm.
this awakening is actually just remembering what is the most natural and healthy, and how it's almost like meant to be. We are designed to live in community. And that's
Hmm.
why there is all these blue zones, right? Where there is longevity and they are the happiest and the healthiest. It's because they actually already lived like that. they live in community, they have purpose, they have meaning, they give and they share. And, it's nothing new. It's just more that I think now more and more of us, especially in the Western world, right, are realizing that, like, it's just kind of obvious in our faces, like, what's wrong with the world and what's not working. And it's like, okay, so let's just in a way discover, but you're just discovering what was always there. It's just we are remembering that. And it's like, oh, wait a second, like I don't know how your grandparents lived, right? Like, but our ancestors, like they were living in the villages or in, with their hands and feet in the soil. They were growing their own food. Like that is how we're meant to be. We're not meant to just disconnected, go to the grocery store, just buy the thing. And like, no, it's just again, the fundamental root is this disconnection from ourselves, from nature and from each other. And it's just we're returning to what's the most natural, which is connection. But again, that can't happen almost at the global scale until we individually go through that process. We have to reconnect with ourselves first, and in our own relationship with nature, in our own, like, immediate community, for example, with your family or whatever kind of people you have in your surrounding, right? Like start to develop those deeper connections, more authentic connections of just, holding space for each other, like you're sharing, how beautiful, right? Just a hug or a massage or just being there for someone when they're going through something. It's the simplest ways, but it makes a profound difference in our everyday experience, right? Because you're showing up fully as yourself with your presence, with your heart, with your love. So beautiful. Thank you. I'd love to shift gear now to hear more about this Gaianet that you've co-founded. Is it just you, or you have other partners as well? And yeah, if you want to share more about that and the work that you're doing, contributing through that platform.
Yeah, so with Gaianet, we started in March 2020, basically when COVID arrived in the Netherlands. And that was for us kind of a wake-up call. Yeah, we were a group of 6 people that found each other in that time through, a series of synchronicities. And yeah, we all had a similar feeling of, you know, how the regular institutions are responding to what's happening here. It's probably going to be a bit of a shit show, and it's time to stand up and to bring a different kind of vision into the world. Regardless of what would happen with COVID, it happened as it happened. It is what it is. But it was also, like coming from each of us having a longer journey of seeing what's going on in the world and seeing also many solutions being developed and um, somewhat of a quiet frustration, like why is all of this not happening yet? And yeah, we all felt that all over the planet, people were feeling that it's time for this shift, time for something new, time for something that makes sense. Um, and we also noticed that that movement was kind of fragmented, or at least that was our hypothesis. Like there's many people out there, but it's a fragmented movement, and we wanted to bring these people together. So with that kind of intention and purpose, we started Gaianet, and for 3 years I've been part of the organization, and we've been connecting with people all over the world who are um, part of this shift, part of this transition to living a more connected way. And in that journey, we have met so many incredible projects that are doing really deep foundational work. And that's also how I connected with these village projects. And I'm also connected with, for example, technology developers for creating digital infrastructure for connecting people, and people with new economic models, new funding models. Everything you can imagine that's needed to create the foundations for a life-centered civilization, a life-centered world. And so that's what I've been doing for 3 years. And then after that, yeah, I've, also had a whole journey, but it's, I think, been a transition for me to go more into the embodiment and also, yeah, the kind of lifestyle that I think um, can be an example for one way to transition. And I've, in all transparency, I've had quite a challenging journey with money in the last years. Um, but yeah, the size, the depth of the challenges have also been equaled by the gifts that were in there. And I feel that some of the deep work I've been doing in the last years is to, yeah, look at my relationship with money and face some fears around, um, yeah, having a lack of money or, going to zero in your bank account. And I think these are some very deep fears that are holding humanity and at the moment, and is what prevents many people from making the shift. So yeah, I think, Gaianet was for me an important starting point and vehicle, and it's still there. I'm still in touch with, the people in the team that are still running the organization, but then also like the whole ecosystem, the whole network that we've connected with. These are basically my collaboration partners right now, and I still feel a deep calling to yeah, weave this ecosystem together to facilitate connections and collaborations, as well as opening the funding streams to bring more resources in this ecosystem, so that it becomes easier for these game-changing projects to come to life and to make it easier for other people to step into um, a different career, because eventually we need a lot of people to make this shift and to start doing different work that actually contributes to a life-centered world. And yeah, I hope that with my life, I can be an example for how you can live differently. And, the way I'm living my life now, I definitely didn't imagine it to be a few years ago. And it's very far off the mainstream track. But it's working for me. It's very fulfilling, and yeah, I'm very grateful for the chances that life has given me.
Beautiful. Oh, thank you for sharing. And thank you for, just being honest and transparent. I think so many of us, right? We have this programming of around money and our relationship to money, and me as well. And it's like, okay, so I have this dream and this vision, and it requires a huge amount of capital or funding or and the thing is, it's like almost keeping your mind open because, again, with our conditioning, it's like we think, okay, it has to come through money, right? I need money to buy the land, or I need money to build the this or that. And what I've been personally working through is like, what if we just take money out of the equation? Because money is just
Mm-hmm.
energy, right? And that's what I'm playing with as well. It's like, okay, how can this manifest with or without money, right? Just remove the money thing out of it. And it's like, what is the vision? What is, going back to remembering that it's all a game and it's a vibrational game. I feel for me, my kind of curriculum in this lifetime is like remembering that it's a vibrational game. And the more that I reprogram my mind, reprogram my nervous system to come into safety, come into coherence, come into unity consciousness, not focus on what's wrong or what's missing, but just like be in that frequency of wholeness. Again, going back to the heart being the center, it's like whatever is needed when I'm in alignment, when I'm in the right frequency. I truly want to believe, and there's a part of me that knows that from a higher perspective, that all the pieces that are needed when you are in coherence already within your system, it can happen with or without money. It doesn't matter, but it can converge and come into your physical reality. But it's like an inside out game, right? You got to do the shifts internally first, stabilize in a certain frequency, shift your consciousness, reprogram whatever is out of alignment, and then the external starts to catch up, but there's like a lag. I find that the inner work I'm doing, it's not immediate. Sometimes there is some synchronicities and things that can happen, but at a larger scale, it takes time for the physical reality to catch up to the internal shifts we're doing. And so, yeah, in terms of the money thing, it's like, however it comes, I believe that if we continue to stay devoted and committed to that inner shift and the inner expansion, the outer will happen in divine timing, in divine order. So long as it sounds like for you, right, from the outside of kind of looking at your stories, you're slowly realigning with your soul. And that's why, money, no money, like it sounds like you feel better now than you did years ago, maybe when you were living a different life, right? Because now it feels like you're slowly realigning with maybe what your soul mission is, like what you came here to actually do and how you want to contribute or express yourself, which is the last question I wanted to ask is like, if either money didn't exist or somehow you had more than enough for the rest of your life, what would be your ideal day? Like, what would you be doing? How would you be expressing yourself? What would you be, sharing, creating? What does that ideal day look like?
Well, in many ways, what I'm living right now
It's
is
great.
like I I like to have my time in the morning to connect with myself and do some morning practice or breath work and then have a nice breakfast, ideally with a view outside, and then slowly transition into some work, and ideally also having people around, that you can spend some time with or can give a hug in the morning. And then, well, yeah, great food is important to me. Having community around, having nature around. And then I really like to kind of balance my work between the physical and the more digital and intellectual, let's say. Um, yeah, and that's what I'm currently doing.
Sounds amazing. It sounds like
And
you're
then
living.
having some meaningful conversations with people like yourself and inspiring other people to live their best life and to take life lightly but live it deeply, and yeah, having joy, having fun, um, dancing, moving, listening to music, uh, and yeah, at night have some cozy chill time with some people that you care about, um, yeah, and working together on bigger visions, bigger dreams. I'd love to have more sailing in my life. Yeah, it would be nice if I have a sailing boat nearby that I can easily take for a trip.
That sounds amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. That's beautiful. And I'm so happy for you that your life already is pretty much there. Your current life is there. And it's just a matter of, expanding and, going deeper into that is a more of like a richer experience of what you're wanting to experience. And that's wonderful. It's very inspiring. I hope it inspires people that are listening as well, that when you follow kind of your heart and you follow that thread of where you feel guided to, that slowly things start to fall into place and the outer starts to reflect more of, the deeper values and the deeper desires. And yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, maybe if I may add
Of
one
course.
thing, like one kind of perspective that I've been playing with in the last months is basically this question of what if everything is already perfect?
Hmm.
So instead of, trying to fight reality as it is or wanting it to be different,
Hmm.
simply accepting that it's perfect already, and things that are uncomfortable in the moment, you never know what they lead to. They might be exactly what you need to get where you want to be and
Yeah.
move towards your vision and your purpose.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and especially the big visions that we hold, you know, we want to bring big visions to life. They can take time for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And also life doesn't happen linearly. So yeah, it might be feeling like for a very long time, nothing happens and you're like, wow. And then, yeah, when there's, you know, for example, an inner shift
Mhm.
that makes you, I don't know, accept whatever is happening and there's more ease and flow, then whoop, things can happen very swiftly. So
100%.
yeah,
Yes.
it's a matter of, yeah, trusting the path, trusting yourself and staying
Mhm.
connected and moving through all the different bits and pieces and allowing ourselves, yeah, to feel because that's, I think, part of the embodiment. And like you were sharing before as well, it's we first need to embody it before it can become real outside of us. So yeah, don't I don't know, don't skip that beautiful process.
Yes, it is. It's why we come, right? It's why we're here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for your time, your wisdom, your insights. It's so funny that I think when we hear like the what if statement, and then it comes with a beautiful kind of positive potential statement, I experience my soul like that as well often. Sometimes we have the what if of like the fearful scenario, and you know for sure that's the fear talking. But then the what if, like what you just shared, what if things are already perfect? I get those little downloads too. It's like, what if nothing's missing? Like, you know, so it's really beautiful that you're reflecting that back to me, because I've also been feeling more and more as I'm like, okay, you know, whatever story the mind is creating of some kind of a separation, something is missing in my reality, right? It's just a story, it's just a perspective. It doesn't have to be that way. Sure, are there things that I wish were different? Of course, but we don't have to create that gap vibrationally again of like feeling that something is missing. So I love that it seems like I may be like a universal gift that life gives us with these what if downloads, where it kind of reminds us, what if, you know, things are perfect? What if you're already whole? You know, because it's true, right? Like it is the truth. And that's why it sparks something, it like awakens something. It just reminds us of like it's just an illusion. Like the separation is an illusion. It's a dream. You already are whole, and it's just you know, the journey of expansion and unfolding, and it's infinite. Like we're never gonna get to anywhere. There is no destination, right? The destination is now. How much of your true whole self can you embody now? Because there is no time. Like literally, there is no time. It's an illusion. It's just the now. So I love that we're ending on this beautiful note, because that is the whole game, isn't it? It's like how much of our fullness, true nature can we embody here and now, and tap into that, the joy, you know, the joy that's underneath all the stories, underneath all the egoic narratives, identities, right? Because it's already here, whole, now, perfect, you know, and also expanding simultaneously. And that makes it fun. So
Well,
thank you, Bart. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your, you know, your presence and just sharing yourself so beautifully, openly. Appreciate you. And I'm grateful that we connected. And I'm looking forward to see how our journeys continue to, you know, expand, unfold, and who knows, maybe in the future we co-create in person someday, somewhere on planet Earth. You know, definitely would be fun for sure.
that would be a joy. And yeah, totally likewise. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for, yeah, guiding this conversation. And thank you for also sharing your wisdom and your heart and, yeah, your beautiful presence.
Thank you so
And
much.
let's see where life will bring us together in physical sense.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see, right? It's the surprise of the unexpected, and I'm open to, you know. constantly mentioning to the universe, like open to receiving all the miracles that are lined up because I know they're there. So
Mm.
enjoy Neos, say hello to Vincent and Karen and the peacocks and all the animals.
Yeah.
Cows. So yeah, enjoy it. It's really truly a beautiful place. It's like I think the land itself is so activating. You know, when I was there, it's like so many different shifts and things were happening just because, yeah, nature is the ultimate hack to life, you know.
Mm.
So yeah, enjoy it, and I look forward to staying connected. Thank you so much.
Thank you too. Have a good day.
If something in this conversation stirred within you, trust that. You didn't find this podcast by accident. And if you're feeling that quiet but unmistakable pull, not just to listen, but to actually build this with us, I want you to know there is a place for you here. Luca Founders is the space forming right now for the humans who are ready to actively co-create the Being Luca vision. The ones who carry a piece of the puzzle and know it's time to bring it forward. If that's you, I would love to meet you. Visit the link in the description. Tell us who you are and how you feel called to contribute. And if you're not quite there yet, that's okay too. Subscribe and share this with someone who needs to hear it. And keep listening. Every conversation is another piece of the blueprint. Until next time, keep listening to that quiet voice within. It always knows the way forward. With love, Layla.